Welcome to ILTV's Israel Weekly. Our main topics today: the battle over Orthodox military conscription continues, and former Israeli Energy Minister Gonen Segev is indicted for being an Iranian spy. Joining me in the studio, our senior research fellow at the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies, Major General Gershon Cohen, political advisor and peace activist Nir Avishai Cohen, Brigadier General Ram Shmueli, who is the former head of Israeli Air Force Intelligence and chairman of HaShomer Chadash, and finally, Meretz Party Knesset member Mossi Raz. Thank you all very much for coming in today. Appreciate it. So, first, we turn to the issue of conscription. After the court struck down religious exemptions to the military draft as unconstitutional, the government was given less than a year to pass a law that works. While the religious parties have their own fast-approaching deadline, and they're threatening to collapse the government if an agreement cannot be reached in time. The only problem, however, is that any draft law that would see religious men in army boots faces a very uphill battle.
יש לנו בעיה קשה עם הגיוס של בני הישיבות. מאיימים עלינו שלא ייתנו תקציבים. מה אנחנו חיים לפי תקציבים מהגויים האלה? צריך לעמוד על המשמר, שתלמידים ילמדו בחשק וילמדו תורה ויעלו רק בתורה. אנחנו לא נשלח אפילו אחד לצבא.
המקסימום, אני חוזר ואומר, צריכים לעשות, נגיד, אין גיוס, אין חוקים, אין כלום. אנחנו לא הולכים לשם, הולכים לבתי סוהר. רק ככה נצליח. שכל אחד יכניס לעצמו בראש. אין משהו אחר. לא פוליטיקאים ולא ועדות ולא כלום. הכל יביא לשמד ורפורמות. רק בדרך הזאת. שום משא ומתן, שום דיבורים. לא הולכים, לא מתייצבים, לא הולכים, שום דבר לא. משטרה לוקחת, הולכים לבית סוהר בשמחה.
So, as Rabbi Cohen pointed out just a minute ago, the current leading proposal, which was put forth by Avigdor Lieberman from the Defense Ministry, is basically saying that they would sanction yeshivas, seminary schools, for not putting forth enough combatants or people to enlist in the military. Would this work? Let's start with you, Major General.
Maybe it will not work. The main issue is not whether it is really working in the examination of how many really coming to serve. It must work, first of all, in order to keep the coalition. This is the main outcome. Because anyhow, the main issue is not whether we are succeeding by law to bring them or not. It is like the idiom, the Arabic idiom saying, when you are coming to the wine garden, you must decide, first of all, what you want to achieve. To struggle with the gourd or to eat the grape. If you want to eat the grapes, you must bypass the gourd. But sometimes, for political issues, they are coming to struggle with the gourd.
So, okay, do we need this? Do we need this to work? How close do you think the coalition actually is to falling apart? Knesset member.
I'm not sure about the coalition. I think that the coalition will go on functioning, and they will
this
find.
Is probably nothing.
Yeah, they will find something, but this is the problem. They think about the coalition, not about the state, not about the people who live here, not about the army, not about our future, because this suggestion is unacceptable because of two main reasons. The first one, actually, they said people who are not ultra-religious are forced to go to the army, while those ultra-religious, most of them will not go to the army, and part of them, small part of them, will go. So this is the first one. And second, who is going to decide? It's not something personally, something the head of the yeshiva is going to decide who will go to the army and who not. So now he has to work for, he's a kind of a slave of this person. So just imagine that we had a legislation that every head of university has to send 1,000 students to the army. Is it acceptable?
How does
it's something that you cannot imagine that a state will offer to the citizen. So, for my opinion, it's the worst suggestion that we had in the last 70 years.
All right. So, Brigadier General, I want to come to you now. Do we need this population? Do we need more people coming into the army?
I think this is not the question. I think the question is, I would like to ask my friends, my colleagues here, because there is no ultra-Orthodox here. What do you think? Is it important to study Talmud? Is it important for the state of Israel, for the Jewish people to study? Is it important that we will have people who will study? I will answer yes. I'm not sure that...
I'll answer yes as well.
Okay.
I will
First,
say yes too.
First. Secondly, always it's a question about values. Second value is it important that we will have equal right and equal obligation? Of course, we agreed upon that we have to be equal. So if you got those basic values and those basics, how you are going to reach those values? I'm not in the issue of politics and how it will help the Likud party or the other party. I'm talking about the issue. The issue for the long run, we want equal right and equal obligation on one hand. We want to have very good soldiers, and we want to have very good people who study Torah. And there are a lot of other solutions rather than there is a national service, there is service in the army, there are groups of smart youth that will have to study Torah and Talmud all day long. So the issue if this rule is right or wrong, I don't care about it. I care about the issue of how we are going to do it together, because as we saw in the film, this is a kind of a collision. Don't talk with them. Those are goys. Try to listen to other people, seculars, they will say, those people are not part of my nation. This is very, very dangerous. We have to be together and to solve the issue together. We have to respect each other. I think that part of us do not respect each other. And this is the key issue. What are the values? What are the main goals? And how we are going to find this solution together. This law is not the way.
But I have to tell you, I'm not against people studying Talmud or Torah or whatever, but in the same way, I'm not against people studying history or math or whatever. Meaning, for me, it's the same. It's important
not
that
the same.
for me,
Okay.
for you, it's not the same.
Sorry.
For me,
it's
it's the same. Education is important, and the right of anyone is to choose whatever you're going to study. And I respect the fact that the ultra-Orthodox want to learn Talmud and Torah. In the same way, I choose to learn history or political science. For me, I have to tell you, it's the same.
Okay.
Now, I understand, Knesset member, that you have another kind of proposal to ban the draft altogether. Is that correct?
Yeah, you know, since everybody knows now that there is no way to have this, the same rights and the same obligations to all the citizens. Because for years, you know, leaders say, okay, we are going to have equal rights, equal recruitment to the army. Everybody now knows that it is not impossible anymore. And if this is the situation, and if, yes, people need to study, and we are now 9 million people. We are not 600,000 like we were 70 years ago. We had 7 armies fighting against us 70 years ago, not anymore. So we don't need that. We have to actually cancel the obligation to go to the army. And then the army can recruit his soldiers and his officers in a better way. By the way, I see people who go to the army right now, half of their service, they study what to do, and then they work for 1 year or 2 years, and then they leave. The army will be way better, way stronger, but more important than that we will have the same rights in this state. We cannot go on with this situation that there are people who are different with the law. The law says that they don't have to go and other people have to go. Cannot have it.
Although I agree with the equal right, I do not agree of this comparison of history and studying Talmud. From the moment of the 70 AD, when Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai went out of the city of Jerusalem, was the destruction of the second temple, the Jewish people choose, instead of holding the throne, study. And this kind of study is part of our strengths as a nation. Nevertheless, it's not enough.
It's the right to study it.
And our identity. So it's not the same. It's not the same. If you respect those people and understand the issue of what does it mean to study, Torah, not history. History it's
That's-
important.
100%
English is
But there is
second.
something practically to speak about. What brought us to that situation of the problematic junction that we are not succeeding to solve right now is a decision of the High Court to bring back the issue to the government and to the Knesset. Why? Because they just cancelled what was called Chok Tal, the law of Tal. I found it very, very effective law because the idea of Tal process was that first of all, we will let them to join the Israeli society to work, and by that they will get payment, they will get a kind of freedom to choose their life without the direct control of the rabbis, and then the next generation will come to serve. Anyhow, I want the service to be an obligation for everyone because the service is not only depending upon how many soldiers we demand, it is a main issue about how we are creating the Israeli society. It is the best school in the Israeli society.
Really?
No better school than that, and I believe
School
from
for
human point of view, nobody can be a good human being without being a soldier. This is
Really?
really, I'm militarist.
So
I
the
cannot-
majority of the world is not being...
But in Finland there is a law to be a
Not
soldier.
women.
In
Only men.
Switzerland there is a
Only
law.
men.
Only men, okay, but men.
So you disagree with the fact that we should get rid of the conscription entirely?
Of
you
course,
think that we should
it
have
is
a
the
draft?
main vector that creating the strength of Israeli society.
Okay, so I want to add another aspect. According to the IDF, almost half of the youngsters are not going to serve in the army. So the prescription in Israel is an illusion. Half, and according to again to the IDF,
Half is including
until
Arabs and all
yes,
part of
they are
us.
citizens.
So what?
They are
They are
citizens. They are part of our
They are citizens,
society.
but they are
And
not.
until 2020, only 46% of the youngsters going to serve in the army. So this fact is a bit.
This is part of our problem. It's
But
it's
this is the fact.
disintegration.
But this is the fact.
No, it's not the fact. If
Because
you
when you
if you're
speak,
gonna
when
if
you
you're
speak
gonna
about
do
society, you have to understand that most of
It
the
is a
society
privilege to serve.
not serving,
But do you think,
not serving the army.
Do you think we would be more together or more segregated without the military? Because I think,
I'm not.
that's something
I'm not saying.
No,
No,
What do you mean
no.
without the
Of course not
military?
It's the
How
only
come?
meeting point, and
The only
also
meeting
What
point
are you talking
I don't believe in
about?
professional
50%?
soldiers.
Final
No,
What
points,
are you
final points?
talking about? 50% of the people don't go. Second. Second, particular people go to particular units. You know that way better than me. Tell me the name of the unit and I'll tell you exactly who are the people who go there, from where are they coming, what is the income of their parents. You know that way better than me. So to say that this is the only meeting point, wow.
For now, it's the only. Those schools we don't meet at school. We barely.
So meet, okay, so
part
create
of our
schools.
problem.
Wait.
Create
don't
schools
meet
to
the
make them
Arabs.
meet.
We don't meet the
Create university
ultra-Orthodox.
to make them meet. The only meeting
problem.
point is university, by the way, not the army. Not the army at all. This was 50 years ago, you are right, 40 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago, not anymore.
All right, well, unfortunately, I have to
Reality.
move on. All right, so moving on. After ties to Iranian handlers were revealed, former Knesset member and government minister Gonen Segev has been indicted on charges of espionage, aiding the enemy in times of war, and providing information to the enemy. Segev had been living in Nigeria for many years following his imprisonment for smuggling ecstasy, and it was in Nigeria that he was allegedly contacted and recruited. But following weeks of investigation, Segev maintains that he was acting as a double agent so that he could eventually return to Israel a hero.
האם זה שגונן שגב התגייס או התנדב, גויס על ידי האיראנים, זאת שאלה שצריך לברר אותה, איך שלא יהיה, זה דברים שקורים בכל המדינות, בכל העולם, כיוון שיש גם יריבים, צריך לזכור. גם המיניסטריון המודיעין האיראני, ה-MOI, או המשמרות המהפכה שגם הם מפעילים גוף מודיעיני משל עצמם, הם גופים מאוד פעילים, מחפשים כל הזדמנות. אחד כמו גונן שגב שאין לו גבולות מוסריים ואחרים, הוא, הייתי אומר, אובייקט מאוד 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 מפתה מבחינתם. אני לא חושב שיש פה כישלון מצד אחד, ומצד שני אני לא דובר מערכת הביטחון, ואני חושב שגיוס של שר לשעבר ישראלי על כל מערכת הקשרים שלו בניגריה ובישראל, לא הייתי מציג את זה כמשהו זניח לחלוטין.
All right, Nir, let's start with you this time. You know, what are your initial impressions to this fiasco, I could call it.
I have to tell you what my point of view in this fiasco. After Bassel Ghatas, the former Knesset member, smuggled cell phone into the jail, after Azmi Bashara did what he did and was guilty by the authorities, the media and the politician from the right wing, they blamed the entire Arab society in Israel, that they are betrayers, that they have the responsibility for these actions. And this week, I haven't heard one person speak about the responsibility of the society, of our society, of the place that Gonen Segev was born. So how come whenever it's an Israeli Arab, always we blame their villages, their town, the entire society, and in this case, it's individual. I believe that this case, and also the others that I mentioned, are individuals. So we have to blame those people and not the entire society. That's my perspective about this fiasco.
All right. How would you respond?
There are two things,
Yeah.
and both of them are, once again, connected to values. First of all, if people who recruit Gonen Segev to be a Knesset member in the party and to be a doctor in the hospital, those people have to ask, if they're still alive, have to ask themselves, how come they had this kind of person in part of their staff? This is one thing. And this is a big issue. We all make mistakes of choosing people that are, their moral values are unacceptable. This is one thing. The other thing, since I was in the intelligence, the head of the intelligence of the Israeli Air Force, as it was said up on, there are spies and other intelligence organizations are looking for a spy. They always look for a spy that he got a weak point. And maybe Gonen Segev weak point that he doesn't have any moral values. They caught this person. He can deal with drugs, with everything, so he will betray his country. So those people are vulnerable for spies. And this is what's happened with Gonen Segev, even though I don't know the details, sure. I don't know this person, but it's not a surprise. If this person with a lack of moral values, he can betray everyone.
Much of the information that they say Gonen Segev was giving the Iranians was old and irrelevant, and that kind of played into the idea that he was maybe a double agent. First of all, how old does information really need to be to not be relevant?
Actually, we don't know. But this is not the main issue. The main issue is what happened to this guy. I agree that it is individually the main explanation. It is not because he was born in Kiryat Motzkin and a friend of Raful and joined Tzomet. But of course, we must pay attention to the way in which he transformed himself from supporting the ideas of Raful. He was elected under the flag against giving land for peace, and at the appropriate moment, he just transformed and jumped to support Rabin Oslo Bet, and by that, this Oslo agreement could go ahead. And this was the main issue that made this event with Gonen Segev now relevant, because it is not an event that began just right now. It began much before, in 1995.
Why it's relevant? I don't understand.
Because he was elected in order to prevent Oslo, not in order to support Oslo. And he took the right to vote in the Knesset without asking what have been his promises.
Do you ask yourself?
Most of the Jews have been against Oslo. And Kalani, of course.
Kalani and Zisman, who were elected and were part of the Labour Party, Rabin's party, voted against. So if you say that on Gonen, just a minute. So if you say that on Gonen Segev, you have to say the same on Kalani and Zisman. Zisman passed away, so you have to say this. To say the same.
Kalani,
and I'm sure that you will not say that on Kalani. So I don't think that what you
was
said about Gonen
just
Segev,
loyal to the main ideas with them. He was sent by Rabin to convince the people in Golan Heights and Jordan Valley to support because
Oslo had never to do with the
it was
Golan
not
Heights.
before. But
Kalani
the Jordan Valley
was elected as part of the labor list, and he betrayed his party. And I will not say that he will tomorrow do the same with Iran, because there is a difference between somebody like Kalani, who was not loyal to basic values.
He was basic.
To somebody, he was not loyal to basic values. To somebody who betrayed his state. It's not the same. And this is part of what we have seen in the last week. At least Mr. Cohen say exactly the truth. In the right wing, they say he voted for Oslo. He did not vote for Oslo. He voted against Oslo. Mr. Cohen was accurate, I'm saying. But it is not the same voting against what your people, your party wanted. It's not the same like you spying for another state.
You see a connection between him voting with Oslo Agreement and the act that he made last year with Iran?
In a way, yes. It doesn't mean that everyone voted for Oslo, supported Oslo, is going to be a spy. Not that. But someone that was the leading of the extremist right wing in Somet party, jumping to the other side, this is
like
many
say the
politicians.
same about Kalani.
No, but Kalani was very stable in his ideas from the beginning. He didn't. He was not someone that was voted.
He supported Oslo.
No, he was not. No.
He supported Oslo, and then he wanted to form a new party, הדרך השלישית, the third way.
No, it was later.
And he opposed. Yeah, it was
later.
later. But this vote against the second agreement was part of his. And I'm not. I think that Kalani is a good person. So I'm saying, how can you say that? Okay, people sometimes. They are part of a party and they don't go with their party. They change their mind.
There is a lesson learned, as I said once again, lesson learned how those people choose this kind of person, which is non-stable enough, lack of moral values. This is very dangerous, very dangerous. A person like this is a minister of energy of the state of Israel.
Sure.
And how we sell his country by nothing. This is a big lesson for us, for the future.
That we should be looking at those types of behaviors more so than, you know, kind of how they voted.
Absolutely. It's very dangerous.
All right. With that, unfortunately, we've run out of time. So, you know, thank you for everybody for coming in today. I so much appreciate that you made time to come out for the show. Thanks, of course, to all of you for tuning in, as usual. Remember to check us out on Facebook at Israel English News and, of course, on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras, and we'll see you next week.